Greetings, all you junior planetary surveyors out there. Welcome to Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch, Season 2. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What up?
Today, we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 2, Episode 26, and season finale, The Jem'Hadar. Alternate title, The Worst Camping Trip Ever.
It's a pretty bad camping trip, all right.
But just by a little bit.
I want the alternate title to be, it's like, how to meet a Klingon in 10 days. Just something about the disappointment in not meeting a Klingon.
Yeah, I mean, the Klingons, we know the Klingons are going through doing planetary surveys and stuff, or genetic. What were those one group of Klingons doing that one time?
I think it was a survey, but they kept saying how there was going to be a great victory, so we were suspicious that was not in fact the case.
It was not clear what they were really doing, but why don't you just wait for some Klingons to come through the wormhole and then confront them? Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll do a quick note on spoilers in case our rewatch is your first watch. Expect full spoilers through this episode. This is not like an episode this is not a show where you listen to get a review and then you decide whether you go watch the episode or not. This is, like a discussion show. Anyway, but we won't. We'll keep major spoilers to an appropriate minimum. Nothing too big, like when they finally figure out that the Jem'Hadar are allergic to water.
I mean, that would help.
Yep, that was a big turning point in the show for sure. This episode originally aired June 12th, 1994. It was written by Ira Steven Behr and directed by Kim Friedman, aka Crazy Jewish Mom. She's apparently the subject of a Shit My Dad Says style Instagram account called Crazy Jewish Mom.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia. And there's even a book available of it on Amazon. Does that still happen to write a blog about crazy stuff your parent says and then turn it into a book?
I mean, you could turn anything into a book, I guess, so sure. Maybe.
But that was the trajectory of Shit My Dad Says.
Was it? Okay.
I think so. It was a blog, and then it was a book, and then it was a TV show.
I know absolutely nothing about that show, so I will believe you.
William Shatner was in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, okay, I know that, and I think Kaylee Cuoco was on there or something, right? But I mean,
was that? Oh wait, in addition to being in 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter.
Oh, is that the one I'm thinking of? That might be the one I'm thinking of.
Well, I guess that was a blog too, wasn't it?
Man, I didn't watch either of those shows, so I don't know.
I watched 8 Simple Rules occasionally, and then up until what's his face died and David Spade replaced him.
So was he the real dad? I mean, how does he replace the dad?
I forget. He was like a cousin or something who came to comfort them. I honestly don't know. I was like, man, this got too sad. Anyway, let's summarize this episode here. Recap segment of our recap. Wait, what?
Rewatch is the second word you were looking for?
Recap, discuss, and rate. So, okay. Recap. Jake Sisko is hard at work on his science project, growing caterpods, possibly right on the brink of a discovery that will end Bajoran hunger forever. But Commander Sisko walks in and is like, what a lame science project. Can't you think of anything else? Jake Sisko says, how about they go to the Gamma Quadrant and do a planetary survey?
Well, first he's like, can you teach me to pilot a runabout? And his dad's like, yeah, in your dreams, which then later on that proves unfortunate. Yeah, exactly.
It seems like you could do both on the trip, but...
You could.
But yeah, Commander Sisko's like, okay, let's go to the Gamma Quadrant and do a planetary survey, which apparently means a camping trip. I mean, I would just imagine they would just orbit the planet in their runabout and survey the whole planet, but
then you wouldn't have a camping trip in possibly hostile territory with bugs and diseases and whatever that you know nothing about
on a barely surveyed planet.
Yep.
It's a great place for a family trip. So anyway, later in his office, Sisko is looking forward to spending time with Jake while he gets briefed by Kira and Dax. Kira says that the new Bajor colony in the Gamma Quadrant is really coming along nicely, especially the irrigation system. And then Sisko also mentions the upcoming arrival of the USS Odyssey, commanded by Captain Keo, with whom Dax shares some kind of vague, never-explained history.
Yeah, he doesn't like her, or maybe he does like her. It's really unclear from what we see.
Well, apparently he thinks she's arrogant, and she thinks he's arrogant. Yep. So they just both think each other is arrogant. How they know each other, what their past is, we don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if he knew like the other Dax, because Jadzia is a little bit young to have existing relationships with anybody. Although she is a lieutenant, so I assume she served somewhere before serving aboard aboard DS9.
Yeah, it's not clear. They never mention Curzon or anything, but
yeah,
could be. So O'Brien comes on the comms, is like, "Sir, your son is here," in a tone of voice that says, "By the way, I'm the chief of operations, not your receptionist."
One does wonder.
Yeah. I thought there's like that little like tinge of annoyance. It amused me. So Jake comes in and he shares the good news. Mrs. O'Brien said that Nog can come along for the science project too.
Yep.
Sisko does not like this idea, but Jake guilts him into it by saying that Nog will drop out of school if he doesn't get a good grade on the science project, which I kind of doubt, but because Nog likes school.
That sounded like going a little far, but
yeah, that sounds like a fake made-up story he had planned in advance. Meanwhile, in Quark's, Quark is having a heart-to-heart with a Morn, who seems about to share some kind of big problem that he needs help with. However, Quark is immediately distracted when Odo walks by. Quark wants to know if his plan to advertise on the station's monitors is approved. Which, I don't know why he thinks this would be approved, but...
I mean, he really seems certain that it's going to be approved. And when it's not, he's like, but I could make so much money, as if everyone's concern is that.
Yep. Yeah, he's like, he doesn't understand why people don't understand how great it is that he could be making more money.
And really, it doesn't even make any sense for a Ferengi to feel this way, because in Ferengi society, no one is going to give you anything for free, and no one is going to want you to make money unless it's helping them make money. So, like, I don't understand why he thinks under any circumstances anywhere that they'd be like, oh yeah, we'll help you make some money for nothing, sure.
Maybe he thinks, like, as the head Ferengi on the station, it just makes them all look bad if his profits are low. And so naturally they would want to help him out or something.
Sure.
But yeah, Quark realizes that maybe his relationship with Commander Sisko isn't as great as it could be. After
Odo straight up tells him, Sisko doesn't like you. And then he's like, no, Kira's the one who doesn't like me. Sisko, and Odo's like, doesn't like you either.
Yeah. It's possible that multiple people might not like you.
He's just like, what did I ever do to him? Lots of stuff.
You remember the multiple things that you've done that have, like, brought the station into danger?
Yeah.
He wasn't a fan of any of those. Remember the time you took down the security and, like, Klingons took over the station?
Yeah.
Like, 2 Klingon guys were able to take over the station?
Yep.
Yeah, he was not pleased with that. Luckily, Nog shows up right then to tell him about the Gamma Quadrant trip. So as Quark and Nog walk off to prepare for the trip, Morn watches them leave disappointedly. He's like, but my problem... Then Morn is never seen again. No. So as the runabout prepares to leave for the Gamma Quadrant, Quark just shows up and smooth talks his way into joining them.
Or he
just annoys Sisko until Sisko doesn't want to argue anymore. Either way.
That's closer to the more target, yeah.
It's the Quark style. So they head off. They arrive at some planet in the Gamma Quadrant, similar to Earth in the early Devonian period.
Is that a thing?
Oh, I'm sure it's a thing. That sounds like a thing.
Oh, yeah, okay. The Devonian period, that's 419.2 to 358.9 MYA. Whatever that means.
Yeah, million years ago.
Ah, okay.
Yep. I know science.
Yep, there you go.
So apparently it means there's bugs and fish, but not very many land animals or something.
The Devonian period is called the Age of Fishes.
Ooh. So Quark immediately begins complaining, seeming to have forgotten his goal of getting on Sisko's good side.
I almost get the impression that he thinks, like, Sisko will join in on his complaints. Like, yeah, this place sucks.
Okay, so you think he's trying to play, like, the commiseration angle.
At first, at least. Eventually, he's just, like, whiny and pissy. But I think at first, he's like, oh, man, yeah, this is horrible.
Okay, yeah, could be. Then after spending forever complaining about the bugs and stuff, he remembers what he's trying to do, and he tries to bring up the subject of the station monitors, but Sisko immediately shuts him down. Still, just bizarrely not interested in increasing Quark's profits. It's like, but my profits. And like, as far as we know, he didn't even offer to do anything in exchange for this, like, advertising time, so you think he'd be like, oh, I'll, like, help out with this or whatever. Sisko goes to check on the boys who are tricording some dirt and says it's time for jambalaya. Quark continues complaining throughout the dinner, then sets himself on fire.
Yeah, he was trying to pick some bugs out of the jambalaya pot.
Yeah.
And apparently doesn't have a concept of how fire works.
Right. Just stick your arm in the fire. Oh, no.
Cloth catches fire, and then once that happens, the best way to put it out is to wave your arm around, right? Like, that's right. The technique.
Clearly, Quark is not an outdoorsman, I think, what they're trying to communicate to us in this episode.
I mean, maybe fire only is useful outdoors in the future, but it's just like basic fire. Like, he used to be a cook on a Ferengi ship or something. I feel like you should know how to handle basic fire, anything, but whatever.
They probably just use microwaves or something.
Yeah.
Then he decides to use this moment to endear himself further to Sisko by accusing him of anti-Ferengi racism.
Yep.
Which, like, okay, good luck. At some point, Nog becomes upset and runs off, with Jake following. Suddenly, an alien lady runs out of the woods and sneezes a light bubble at Sisko, which knocks him down. She seems to be concerned about someone called the Jem'Hadar. And sure enough, a bunch of other aliens appear, as though from thin air.
Yep, they got the shroud thing happening, which mentioned way back in the day, but now that we're hitting it again, it's supposed to look like the way Tosk turns invisible or whatever.
Huh.
Because in the script for this episode, it's established that, like, the Tosk were engineered by the Dominion and given as gifts to the Hunters for their, like, for being good Dominion members.
That was in the script for this episode?
Yeah, I guess it is mentioned somewhere or something.
All right. Interesting connection. In the middle of the woods, Nog and Jake are having trouble contacting Sisko and Quark and become concerned that they might have been attacked by a vicious tree. In fact, Sisko, Quark, and the alien lady, whose name is Eris, are in a Star Trek cave somewhere, surrounded by a glowing purple security field device.
Those classic Star Trek caves.
Yep. Just, you know those Star Trek caves.
Yep.
Sisko tries to test the field, but Eris warns him that touching it will kill him. The three talk while sitting inches away from the instant death invisible force field.
So, well, she says it'll kill him, and they're like, how do you know? And she's like, well, everything about the Jem'Hadar is lethal. And I was just like, okay, but that's not that's not like factual information. That is an assumption based on, like, what you vaguely know about this species. Like,
True.
It feels a little bit off to me.
I mean, really, there might not even be a field for all we know. Like, she doesn't want him touching it, because then they might realize it's just like a big neon light on the ground. Eris tells her story. The bad aliens are the Jem'Hadar, the elite warriors of the Dominion. Quark immediately recognizes the Dominion as the Tulaberry guys.
And it's like, we've never heard of it's like, we've been trying to set up trade with the Dominion for like a year, but we've never heard of the Jem'Hadar. Yeah. That doesn't exist. You made that up, basically.
We know one thing about the Dominion. They like Tulaberries. Or they have Tulaberries, or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But her homeworld was conquered by the Dominion, and now she is on the run because her mother spoke out against them, or something like that. Which really, okay. This is my main note for the episode. And it's a pretty minor thing, but like, several times they have encountered people whose story is, my planet was conquered by the Dominion. And did nobody think maybe this is a thing we should like take note of and investigate?
I mean, apparently the Dominion has been avoiding being investigated.
I guess.
Although, actually, there's an interesting note in here about that, too. Because, so it says that according to, let's see, where's this guy's name? Okay, so according to Robert Hewitt Wolf, the Dominion knew about the Federation long before the discovery of the wormhole, and had plans to deal with them when the time came. However, they did not expect contact with the Alpha Quadrant for another 200 years. So they had these very long-term plans in place to take care of the Federation in some way. But now that after the wormhole's discovered, like, it disrupted their plans. And so it says that they've specifically chosen to take the past 2 years to like observe and gather information and avoid contact with like the Alpha Quadrant people. Or official contact.
Sure. But like, you'd think they'd be like, like they'd go back to that hologram planet guy and be like, hey, can you tell us like more about this Dominion that conquered your homeworld? Or like, where is your homeworld? Can we like go visit it? Or like those flaky skin alien people? Be like, hey, where's your homeworld? Can we go like... Or I guess their homeworld wasn't conquered by the Dominion. The homeworld of the people that conquered their planet was conquered by the Dominion. But you could follow that trail of breadcrumbs to like get
exactly.
To them. I kind of wonder how much effort the Ferengi were really putting into contacting the Dominion also.
Well, they may not have known about like the times the Federation has run into mentions of the Dominion. There may not be a lot of information sharing.
But I mean, it seems like you could just fly around the Gamma Quadrant for a while, being like, hey, do you know anything about the Dominion? And eventually you stumble across something.
Eventually, yeah.
I think Grand Negazek might have gotten distracted in the holosuites or something. Anyway, so Eris says that she could take down the security field if her telekinesis blocking collar were removed. So Sisko gets to work tinkering with it, while Quark gets to work loudly complaining at the Jem'Hadar, putting his complaining skills to use. Finally, the Jem'Hadar leader is so annoyed that he comes to talk to them. The leader explains that they're being held because the Founders want them held. Who are the Founders? None of your business. Except that they're the whole reason you're in this situation, so I guess that would make it your business, but whatever.
My orders don't involve telling you about the Founders, and I follow my orders. So.
Right.
And then Eris is like, the Founders, that's just like a made-up. Eris, who claims to know not much about the Dominion, does seem very confident that there's no such thing as the Founders.
Right. Like, what his whole thing about his orders and what he can and can't do for some reason reminded me of the time in Futurama where it's like, if your programming told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? He's like, better check my program. Yep. So yeah, Eris claims that the Founders are a myth, but the Jem'Hadar man says that no, they're not a myth. They exist. They created the Dominion. So just throwing a little bit of lore out there for us to nibble on.
Yep.
Then the leader demonstrates an unsettling amount of knowledge about the Alpha Quadrant by lamenting that the first race the Jem'Hadar encountered wasn't the Klingons with their batleths. Which, like I said, why don't you just wait for a Klingon ship to come through and then, like, ambush those guys?
And Sisko's all like, I'm not here to talk about the Klingons. And he's like, okay, well then how do you like the treaty between your Federation and the Cardassians? I feel like you got a bad end of the deal.
Yep. He's flexing his Alpha Quadrant knowledge.
Which I guess is completely intentional because, as we find out later, like, the plan was for Sisko to escape, so they wanted you to know how much they knew for reasons.
Right. Or something. Mainly their plan is to embed Eris as a mole, I guess. Yeah. Which, this reminds me of the storyline from The Americans. Basically, the moral of the story is always be suspicious of defectors, because they could actually be moles.
Sure.
There's a great storyline where like this lady like defects from the Soviet Union. She's talking about how horrible the Soviet Union is all the time, and then like Stan, the head FBI counterintelligence character that we follow, he has a past like infiltrating neo-Nazis, and this guy's like, wow, how do you like infiltrate somebody who's like, you know, you disagree with so much like that? And he's like, it's easy. You just keep telling them what they want to hear, and then they'll like believe, they'll like welcome you in. And then he looks over at this like Russian defector lady just talking trash about the Soviet Union all the time. He's like, wait a second. Anyway, Sisko's like, where are you figuring out all this stuff about the Alpha Quadrant? He's like, we learn more every day. Maybe because like you guys just keep flying around the Gamma Quadrant talking to everybody. And they will no longer tolerate people coming into Dominion territory, which I guess, in his opinion, is the entire Gamma Quadrant.
Well, I mean, we don't know in general terms, like how much is understood by the spacefaring races of the Gamma Quadrant, like where Dominion territory is.
Sure.
So maybe it does.
Yeah.
Or maybe like the whole area around the wormhole has been in Dominion territory all this time, and just nobody chose to mention that.
Could be. Sisko doesn't ask for like more information, so
yeah, I
would be like, can you give me like a map of this territory?
Yeah, we'd be happy to stay out of your territory. Just show us on the map where it is.
It's like, we're the Federation. We totally want to open up, diplomatic relations. We want to, do treaties and stuff. That's what we're all about. So yeah, tell us where this territory is, and we'll start talking. But he's like, yeah, F you, or whatever. So yeah, Jake and Nog locate the Jem'Hadar camp, but they don't know what to do. He's like, they don't look very friendly. He's like, we should get closer. He's like, I don't think they'll look any friendlier when we get closer.
He's not wrong.
So they fall back on Nog's original plan and just go back up to the runabout and try to beam Sisko and Quark out. This doesn't work because they're in a field or something. So they decide to fly back to Deep Space Nine, but neither one of them knows how to fly or understand the purpose or concept of an autopilot.
Well, I mean, no, I followed their logic, where it's like, we want to get back. The autopilot is the thing that's stopping us from being able to leave this planet, so we're going to have to turn off the autopilot. And then only afterwards are you like, oh.
So yeah. So it's just more of a problem of foresight.
I absolutely think it is, yeah. Well, on Jake's part at least. I'm not confident that Nog understands anything.
Sure. Back on Deep Space Nine, a Jem'Hadar ship comes through the wormhole, and the leader beams right into Ops, introducing himself as Third Talaktalan.
Sure.
And says that Sisko is being detained for questioning. Also, stop coming through the wormhole. We don't like it.
Also, we
blew up all your ships.
Yeah.
And your new Bajor colony. Then he beams out. So it's like, no.
He also proves able to like walk straight through their security force fields,
yeah.
Which that's a concern.
Yeah, let's maybe look into some of these issues here. But yeah, Kira's like, no, the great irrigation system is ruined. So Sisko's having trouble figuring out Eris's collar, so he recruits Quark to pick it with his amazing lockpicking skills that we learned about in the whatever that episode was. The one where they trapped Odo in the drawer.
You mean how Rom was way better at lockpicking, or is that a different episode?
That might have been a different episode, I don't know.
That's the one where they're trying to break into the place to get the stuff for that lady, and Rom's like, I can do this like 10 times faster than you.
Oh yeah, I think that episode was after that one. But yeah, Quark decides this is a good moment to call out humans for their history of slavery and concentration camps and stuff.
Yep. He's like, oh, just pick locks. You just look down on Ferengi so much, telling me what to do all the time.
It's like, dude, you're reading way too much into all this. And it's like, okay, you got us. We did slavery. We're sorry.
So, I mean, Sisko, he mentioned slavery, and Sisko, like, immediately, like, jerks his head up and gives Quark a look, like, don't.
It's like, come on.
But there's a note in here about Quark's speech, and it says that Ira Stephen Bear had said that we were getting to the end of the second season, and it was time to lay to rest this long-time feeling that the Ferengi were the failed villains of the Star Trek universe. I wanted people to see them as something else. And so the stage direction in the script is for Sisko to look like not convinced by Quark's speech, but like kind of like, maybe he has a point. And so he says, if we could show that Sisko, whose character has a lot of weight, would take what Quark says seriously, then maybe the audience would take it seriously.
Okay. I didn't quite get that from that scene.
Nah.
But I didn't quite get that we were supposed to, like, side with Quark. I mean, he's got us. We did some slavery. I mean, but, like, in the moment, it's like, oh, this is not a good time to, like, be going into this. So yeah, so the Odyssey has arrived at Deep Space Nine, and Captain Keo says they've been ordered to investigate this Jem'Hadar situation. And then we see Dax and Keo's weird passive-aggressive vibe thing, which you're like, oh, surely this will pay off in all kinds of great ways later.
Keo's got an interesting personality going. I'm not sure what to think of him, but
sure.
He ends up dead, so maybe it's not really that big a concern.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got the line, it's like, Lieutenant, have you ever served on a starship? It's like, no, I'm happy where I am. Good.
Yeah, he's like, I wouldn't want you on my ship. Get away.
So yeah, so they make this plan to load up the other two runabouts with weapons and all go into the Gamma Quadrant together. And then Odo decides to come along also to rescue Quark, which winds up being pointless. But
his reasons about wanting to go to rescue Quark was like, wow, okay.
It's like, the Federation guys might forget to rescue Quark when they're there, so I better go make sure that happens, so I can continue, like, antagonizing him.
So apparently, if you pay attention, when the Odyssey is hanging around at Deep Space Nine, these are reuses of the shots from, like, the first episode where the Enterprise was at Deep Space Nine.
That had occurred to me, but I was like, oh, are these reused shots or are these like a different angle? But I did not care enough to check. I mean, at this point, I kind of assume that whenever they can reuse a shot, they will.
Right.
Back on the runabout, Jake and Nog have pulled every isolinear chip and dumped them onto the floor. Except for, I guess, the chip that keeps the warp core from collapsing.
Yeah, because they pull that one out and it doesn't go well.
That's the anti-warp core collapse chip. Very important. Should maybe have a big red warning label on it or something. But then Jake remembers something about the guidance and navigation relay and yanks it out, disabling the autopilot. Because guidance and navigation, those probably aren't things that they'll need to use in a little bit.
Nope.
Then he attempts to use the autopilot to fly home with predictable results. So then they start trying to fly the runabout manually to the wormhole with not much success. I think they say it'll take them like 5 years or something.
Yeah. Nog's like, it'll take weeks at this rate. And Jake's like, actually, it'll take like this many years.
Right. Luckily, the Odyssey and friends show up. Chief O'Brien beams aboard to fix their mess. But he's like, yeah, everything on here is broken, so how about we just fly back to the planet real fast, beam up Sisko and Quark, and then head home? And Keo's like, all right, do it. Down on the planet, Quark is finally able to get Eris's collar off, and she sneeze balls the containment field and shuts it down.
Yep.
Then they take out the guards, the super elite Jem'Hadar guards. They take out barehanded and get their weapons.
Yep.
And run off. Then they run through the woods for a really, really long time. There's just like this really long shot of them just like jogging through the woods. And then Quark stops to complain. Eris is like, let's just like leave him in the bushes or something.
Can we leave him? And Sisko's like, no.
But luckily, that at that point, O'Brien beams them up. Meanwhile, the Odyssey and the other two runabouts engage some Jem'Hadar ships. And I gotta say, Captain Keo's shake acting is on point. Like, he delivers these really long lines while, like, doing these just, like, gyrating, shaking things while, like, the whole ship is getting bombarded with fire or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that dude's committed. But since they got Sisko and Quark, they all turn to head back home. But then suddenly a Jem'Hadar ship suicide runs into the Odyssey and it blows up. Which they're like, oh, that sucked. They're about as upset about that as about learning that like all the previous ships and the new Bajor colony got destroyed.
Yeah, they're not overly concerned.
Yeah, they're like, they're more confused. It's like, why would they do that?
Yep.
Cisco's like, to make a point.
But they offloaded all the unnecessary
Sure.
crew or whatever off the Odyssey first.
So who knows how many lives Dax saved by doing that? And that's like a Galaxy class ship, so that's probably a lot of people on there.
Well, Galaxy class ships can hold a lot of people, but they don't necessarily always run with a lot of people. Like,
Sure.
I think the standard crew on the Enterprise was like less than 1,000, and they can hold like thousands of people, like in a pinch or whatever. So.
Sure.
And who knows how many families? Like, there's a whole thing about Galaxy class ships because like the Enterprise had families on it, right? And
yeah,
Ronald D. Moore at some point commented, he's like, "Yeah, I think like the families on starships was an experiment that ended up being kind of a failure for the Federation."
Yeah. Well,
like,
I always think of that because like every week the Enterprise is in some insane like peril, and they just keep those families on there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what he's basically saying. He's like, there's something awkward about Picard ordering battle stations with like little kids running through the corridors.
Yeah. I mean, it must be terrifying at first, and then these kids just get like, oh, I guess we're in danger again.
So, yeah, who knows if that one had any families on it.
Sure. So maybe that the families on the ship program was ended by that point or something.
Yeah, could be.
So anyway, yeah, the runabouts get back to Deep Space Nine, and then Quark asks to speak to Sisko privately. They head to Ops and confront Eris about the fact that her TK inhibitor doesn't actually do anything, which Quark discovered when he tried to reverse engineer it so he could make a profit off of it.
Yep.
Although, how much profit? He was like, these inhibitors are usually really bulky. I was like, how often do you encounter these?
Right? Yeah, I mean, I guess you got people out there like, betazoids and stuff that
Sure.
can use telepathy, so maybe that will block that kind of thing also. So it might come up.
But yeah, Eris is just like, okay, you got me. And then she just beams away, seemingly to nowhere.
Yeah, beams away to where? We don't know.
Maybe a cloaked ship or something, who knows. Sisko ends the episode by pointing out that if the Dominion attacks the Alpha Quadrant, the first battle will be at Deep Space Nine, and he intends to be ready.
And with the Vorta and their crazy telekinetic powers, it might be quite a fight.
Yeah.
Oh wait, spoiler, they don't have those powers after this.
Yeah, maybe she just has that power, or... I mean, it doesn't seem like a very powerful power, to be honest. Like, you sneeze a ball of light at somebody, and they kind of fall down. Maybe it has, like, a higher setting or something, but...
Yeah, and, I mean, Ira Stephen Bear is like, yeah, we made some mistakes, like the telekinetic thing, which we don't use later, and also, like, basically, they hadn't figured out a lot of stuff about the Dominion, even still, at this point. Like, they didn't know who the Founders were going to be.
Huh.
When they talk about the Founders in this episode, so...
Just, well, I mean, I just assume there's some aliens who founded the Dominion. I mean...
It's right there in the name.
Yeah, what's there to know? And then, you said Vorta. I don't think they ever said that word in the episode.
Oh, did they not?
Remember, she claimed to be from some other planet. Like
That's true.
Corellia or something. I forget. She didn't really stop and explain very much after she got caught. She
was out of there.
She was just like, by the way, the Founders are real. You guys are effed. Beam out. So yep, that's the season 2 finale. Big villain seems like enters.
Or maybe they'll never come back. We don't know.
You know, given the track record of the show up to this point, very possible.
But no, they were trying hard to be like, hey, look, this is going to be a big problem. It calls out that like they made it a Galaxy class ship that gets blown up specifically to be like, hey, you know this like the Enterprise, which you guys think is like the hottest shit ever.
Uh-huh.
Well, these guys could have taken it out easy. And actually, it has Robert Hewitt Wolf quoted in here is like, it's my belief that if it had been the Enterprise and not the Odyssey and Picard rather than Keo, it still wouldn't have survived.
Huh.
I don't know that I believe they would have had this, because part of the problem, obviously, or a big part of the problem was like the Dominion can apparently just shoot through their shields.
Right.
And Dax is like, hey, have you tried this? And he's like, yeah, it didn't work. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure like Data or LaForge would have come up with something to, like, let's stop them shooting through our shields. I don't know if that would have helped with the suicide run, actually.
Like, they would have gone to the conference room, Data would have pointed to a thing on the TV, and then Geordi would have been like, what if we can do this? And then Data would have been like, it is theoretically possible. And then Picard would have been like, make it so. And then they would have had super Jem'Hadar proof shields in the next scene. That's how Star Trek Next Generation episodes work.
It is a lot like that, yeah.
And then Worf would have been there and he'd have been like, we should just attack. And then Deanna would have been like, I sense deception, but my powers are clouded like they are every episode.
Yeah, right. But it also... The destruction later inspires some stuff that we'll see, but I don't want to spoil anything, but sure. it does call out. It's like, we were looking at the dailies and we're like, man, these guys are blowing up Galaxy class starships. They're tough. All we have is these freaking runabouts that no one likes and are difficult to shoot in. And so, yeah, that,
I mean, to be fair, the whole ship suicide bombed into the ship.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't have trouble believing that would cause some problems. Like, I mean, the Enterprise itself got destroyed by just, like, a little Klingon bird of prey. So
that's true.
You know, if you can get through their shields, and especially, like, if you just, like, ram them, you can, you know, do some damage.
Yep. And fun fact, the Odyssey is the third Galaxy-class starship seen destroyed on screen.
Oh, wow.
With the first being the USS Yamato in... I think it's a season 1 episode, Contagion. No, it's a season 2 episode. And then, of course, the Enterprise D has been destroyed several times.
Sure.
Always coming back. Which, it's interesting, because if you, like me when I was younger, had the Star Trek The Next Generation technical manual, it specifically calls out that, like, only 6 Galaxy-class ships were initially constructed. But at the same time, they laid up, like, the space frames for 6 more ships and put those in storage so that they could, like, be constructed quickly if, like, an emergency called for more capital ships.
Sure.
But apparently Gene Roddenberry didn't feel that, like, the Federation, this, like, peaceful organization or whatever, would have a need to, like, construct lots of big ships. And so he was like, yeah, they only need, like, 6 of these.
Good fact. And so, I guess that brings us down to, like, 4 after the...
Yeah, assuming the Odyssey is one of those original 6.
Right.
We know the Enterprise, we know the Yamato, we know that the Galaxy would have been the prototype. Right. So, those are the ones that we know for sure are out there. And apparently, it looks like 2 more at some point get named on screen. But according to the Galaxy class wiki article, there are only 6 officially named ones. One of them is from a Voyager episode, and it's the USS Challenger. And the other one is from a later DS9 episode, and it is the USS Venture.
Okay. And I'm sure they build a brand new model every time.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Right? No, it calls out in here that's like, yeah, the model used for the ship was like the same one, like for the ship exploding was like the same like breakaway model from that episode where the Enterprise explodes a bunch of times.
Sure. That makes sense. I was actually just thinking, it's like, I wonder if, because, okay, well, there's the episode where, the time loop episode where it explodes a million times. Isn't there also the parallel universes episode? Don't we get a bunch of exploding ones in that one too?
I know we get one exploding one for sure. I don't know if there's a bunch.
So I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if they reused any of those shots. But also, I think those set, the bridge set was probably the Enterprise set.
Actually, apparently, and it calls this out in the Galaxy class thing too, that there may have been a redesign at some point because the bridge of the Odyssey, it says, is actually pretty different from the bridge of the Enterprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let me go back to that. And Not the battle bridge. I don't care about that.
It looked pretty similar to me, but I guess you don't see it that well.
Yeah, the theory of different bridge designs for different Galaxy-class starships comes from the technical manual. In the Jem'Hadar episode, the Odyssey featured a completely different bridge design from that of the USS Enterprise.
I mean, okay, in this one shot I have pulled up, it looks pretty similar, but there's actually not that many. The main thing you see is like that console off to the side.
Yeah.
I don't really see one with a good view of like the whole thing with like the captain's chair and everything. Anyway, that's weird that they wouldn't like reuse that set or whatever.
Maybe they were. Oh yeah, I mean, I don't. Maybe I was gonna say maybe they were busy shooting on it, but they should have been done with that by this point, probably.
Yeah.
Although the episode was one of the first episodes put in development for the season. Like they had this planned at the beginning of the season.
Huh.
Although originally the idea, it says, was for a similar story to be the season 1 finale, except that it would have had it would have been like a crossover with the Next Generation, where like both crews had to team up to face a ruthless intergalactic invasion force.
Ooh, that would have been fun.
See, yeah, I feel like that would have been a lot of fun, and that's the kind of thing. It's the kind of thing that you see today. Like NCIS will do stuff like that.
Sure.
With like the other NCISs, it's like, hey, yeah, let's have a big crossover where like it starts on one show and then continues on to the other show and stuff. And other shows have done that same thing. Yeah. But I think at this point they're still like, we don't want to like be too reliant on people having to watch something else to watch this, or else they just won't tune in.
Yeah. Like I know those like DC TV universe shows do that stuff all the time.
I didn't watch any of those. So
I mean, I never watched any of those episodes. I saw a little bit of that Flash show.
I watched the first like 2 episodes of the Flash show, and I was not interested after that. So
it was fun enough, but I kind of lost interest early in the season. Morn is finally back. I guess I'll point that out.
Oh yeah, and apparently, in the German version of this episode, Morn speaks.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Come on, Paramount Plus. Don't let me down.
It's like,
oh my gosh. It's on there.
Oh, see?
Okay. Okay. Stand by. I love that these streaming services now just put like every language on the audio options and the subtitles options, because why not?
I like when, like, I don't know if any other services do it, but Disney Plus will sometimes have like the commentary tracks on there, which I love. That's something about DVDs that I love.
Right.
So I was excited to see that on a couple of Marvel movies.
I think I've seen that on HBO sometimes, maybe. And maybe on Amazon too, I don't know. Come on, where's that scene with Morn? It's like in the beginning, right? Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh, yep, he does talk. I mean, he doesn't say very much, but he does talk.
What does he say?
Let me see if I can turn on German subs. And of course the thing with like, the subtitles do not match the audio, which is often happens with foreign language, like subs and dubs. But yeah, basically Quark's like, come on, like tell me what your problem is, and Morn's like, and then Quark walks off. So it's not much.
It says in the Spanish and Italian versions he sighs, and then I guess that's all.
Let's see if he says anything in this. Oh, he says something. Yeah, and he says something when Quark and Nog walk off too. He's like, nicht.
German Morn is just talkative, apparently.
Yeah, he says like 4 words. I like that. That's also like the stinger shot before the credits roll. Just Morn sitting there like looking all forlorn.
So the guy who plays Keo was in an earlier episode of The Next Generation as Koroth, one of the monks or whatever responsible for cloning Kales.
Okay. I was like, that sounds like a Klingon name.
Yeah, and he'll show up in a Voyager episode later as well. But
Sure.
I mean, multiple episodes of Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears. Other voice acting work, several characters on DuckTales.
Huh.
A guy on Tailspin, a crime boss Aldrin Clordane in the pilot movie for Chippendales Rescue Rangers. Nice. Okay.
The Chippendales, that had a pilot movie?
Well, I guess. Well, okay. So if you go and like, if you bought the first season on DVD, the pilot is like 5 episodes or 4 episodes basically. So I guess it was made as like a movie.
Okay. I just, I would just watch that show when I got home from school. This was a different era before DVDs.
He can be heard in Toy Story 4 as Alfred Pennyworth in Superman Batman Public Enemies, the direct-to-DVD movie. I've seen that. So he's out there doing stuff.
Sure.
Good for him.
Sounds like he's got that voice.
Yeah.
Got that good voice acting money rolling in.
Let's check out Third Talak see if that guy's been up to anything interesting.
Oh yeah. It's because it's so hard to tell under the makeup if that's a guy you've seen before or not.
Exactly. That's why I figured they could reuse him, right? So
yeah, I was like, oh, is that? Do I recognize that guy or not?
He has not been in any other Deep Space or any other Star Treks. What else? He had a recurring role in Beverly Hills 90210.
All right.
And on ER.
Okay.
And in Veronica Mars. He seems to be a recurring role guy, according to this.
Sure. Are we ever going to see Third Talak again?
No.
I doubt it. Maybe he was on that suicide ship. Who knows?
Could have been.
I just noticed the language options are French, German, and Italian, but no Spanish, which is a little weird, it seems like.
That is weird. Yeah.
In subtitles or audio, there's no Spanish option. Huh. Yeah. Maybe just Spanish speakers don't like Star Trek Deep Space Nine or something.
This is funny. This episode was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Special Visual Effects.
Okay.
But the award was won by the Voyager episode Caretaker.
Oh, wow.
So, just beating DS9. Way to go, Voyager, I guess.
Voyager didn't even start till next season, though. I thought.
I guess it was the same year.
Sure. I guess that's how they do it.
For the Emmys or whatever. Let's see. Voyager, the first episode of Voyager aired January 16th, 1995. And this episode aired June 1994. So yeah, I don't know when the season for the Emmys is exactly.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. It seems maybe like this barely counts as the beginning of the next season or something like that.
Could be.
There's some good special effects though. You know, those Jem'Hadar shroud effects and the always fun to see a spaceship blow up. So
sure. I do like this explanation Robert Wolf gives as to the organization of the Dominion. Okay. So he's like, you got the businessmen, the Vorta, the friendly guys who show up with a carrot. Hey, we're your friends. Have some phaser rifles or space travel, whatever the hell you want. We'll arrange it. All you have to do is owe us. And then if you don't toe the line, they'll kick your ass with the Jem'Hadar.
And then the founders are the mob bosses or something.
In an early version of the script, Quark's speech includes him citing the 100 Years' War, Auschwitz concentration camp, and Tarsus 4. Which, if fans of the original series will remember that one of the few survivors of the massacre at Tarsus 4, or I don't even know if you'd call it a massacre, because, anyway, James Kirk was one of the survivors of, and I think there were 9 survivors of the 8,000 people on the colony, and he was one of them.
Oh, wow. That's lucky.
Yeah. The governor ordered the deaths of 4,000 colonists so that the other 4,000 might live, and he was executed or something later.
Huh.
Oh, okay, no, I'm sorry. There were only 9 survivors who saw Kodos' face, and James Kirk was one of those. I misread that.
Okay. Huh.
So I guess 4,000 of the 8,000 were killed by the governor to save the others because they were all going to starve.
Ouch.
But yeah, anyway. So that makes sense as one of Quark's quotes for how horrible humanity is. It's a much more recent one than concentration camps in the 100 Years' War.
Yeah. So you're reaching back 1,000 years to the 100 Years' War. I mean, to be fair, it was a war that lasted for 100 years, so that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, it sounds pretty bad. Not that it wasn't bad, but it's just man, that does sound horrible. There's one more thing that I wanted to mention, because I was going to bring it up when we were talking about the Jem'Hadar, but we passed through it. So the makeup, the person who basically developed the makeup for the Jem'Hadar is so we start with the concept of a rhino, but then you take the horn off.
Okay.
Because if you put the horn on, the viewers would be like, oh, that's a rhino. So you take that off.
Okay.
But what makes Star Trek so interesting is that you give the creature the same feel and meanness by putting little horns all around the face. So it makes them dangerous. if you bump into one, you're going to bleed. So you automatically know that you never get too close to a Jem'Hadar.
Okay, that's a fascinating look into the thought process of a makeup designer,
Right?
I guess. I never looked at those things on their head and thought, oh man, if you touch those, you're gonna bleed.
Yeah, no, that's not my first thought either, but...
I mean, I actually would feel pretty safe touching those, like, if the Jem'Hadar guy was cool with it. I'd be just like, oh yeah. Okay, so ready to jump into ratings finally?
Yeah. What do you want to rate this one?
Okay, well, I am going to say that this is a solid Commander for me.
Okay.
Really fun, lots of action, introducing lots of new lore, but it doesn't I mean, there's wow factor, but it doesn't, it's not trying to, and, it doesn't make that just, like that really, really good, captain level type episode, I feel like.
Sure.
But, I think it shoots for just like fun and moving the story along, introducing lots of cool stuff. I think it succeeds at most of that. So yeah, I'm going to give it a Commander. Let me think. Because I was trying to think, so, do I like this more or less than like the Siege or whatever? I think I will even make it like the top Commander.
Nice.
So, well, okay, let me think for a second. Yeah, it can go there. It can go above The Wire. It can go above Armageddon Game.
Okay.
Because it's like when you watch a season finale, you want some bang, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it delivered, everything you could want from it delivers. So
yeah,
that's where I'm gonna stick with it. How do you rate the episode?
So for me, I would also call it a solid Commander. I don't think it jumps up into the realms of Captain territory, but it's not. Right. It's not terribly far off. I like the season finale aspect, the introduction of the Jem'Hadar, you bring in the Galaxy class starship, which is like, oh, the big guns are here, and then it gets blown up. That was all cool. I like the battle stuff. I like the intrigue with this person who they were trying to embed as like a spy. All that was good. I don't particularly like the Quark stuff at all.
Yeah.
And the Jake and Nog stuff felt very unnecessary.
I got a few chuckles out of it, but...
okay. I'll admit that, yes, there's some chuckles coming out of the Jake and Nog territory, but I'm just like, why did we really need any of that? It could, Sisko could have been captured any which way.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So, and really, I feel like Jake and Nog, their story doesn't actually go anywhere. It's like you spend all this time they're looking for Sisko and Quark, but that doesn't result in anything because the only thing you get out of that is when O'Brien shows up, they're like, yeah, they were captured, which they already know.
Right. Yeah.
And then
we get a lot of scenes of them ineffectively trying to rescue themselves, and then just O'Brien shows up. He's like, okay, just stand aside.
Yeah. A lot of time wasted on the runabout to find, which I will give you that it is funny. It's a great moment when after all this work to disable the autopilot, they realize, oh, we need the autopilot.
Right.
So it's a lot of work for that one good moment, but I feel like it detracts from the overall kind of awesomeness of the episode when you have all this time kind of spinning our wheels. That sure. And even a lot of the stuff in the cell with Sisko and Quark and Eris just feels like. In Quark screaming, I understand it's supposed to be obnoxious, but it was so obnoxious. Anyway, that's my explanation for why I think it's a solid Commander. I wouldn't put it higher than that. And I'm trying to decide. For me, I think it's coming down to the Collaborator. Am I putting it over or under the Collaborator? I think I would put it over the Collaborator.
Okay. Over the Collaborator, under the Siege.
Right.
Under Siege. Okay. Yeah, like you mentioned, just some of the Quark stuff and the Jake and Nog stuff. One of the things I was feeling about the episode is it feels kind of not that there's necessarily filler, but it's we start, I feel like in a normal episode, we wouldn't have any of the introduction stuff explaining, why they're going on this field trip. you know,
that's a good point. You
why
would start like in the runabout or on
Right.
the planet, and it's like, hey,
And
we're
then-
doing this for the science project.
Yeah, Cisco would just be like, we'd open it with a shot of the runabout going through the wormhole, and then Cisco would just do a station log or whatever explaining what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, Jake's friend Nog has come along too, along with Quark. I suspect he plans to pitch me his idea for the monitor advertisements or whatever again.
It would be like, also Quark is here. I'm not sure why. For some reason.
Yep.
And it would just like, he would just have this sentence that sounds perfectly, normal, but he would input into it all that like disdain in his voice so that you knew from like those two words that he was not happy about Quark being there.
Yep. So yeah, I guess they think like the main story of them going down to the planet didn't have enough beats or something, so they kind of like padded it out a little bit with this kind of Jake and Nog stuff. Or maybe they did it on purpose. Maybe they wanted to add some like Jake and Cisco relationship stuff or something. I don't know.
They spent so much money on spaceship fights that they're like, we need something cheap to film.
Yeah, that was another thing, is a lot of it takes place in that like forest.
Or in a cave.
Yeah, which is like, I wonder how much money they spent filming in that forest. Probably not very much.
Hold on, there's a thing in here that called out where they filmed those scenes, and now I want to go back and see if I can find it. The outdoor scenes of the Gamma Quadrant planet were filmed at the Descanso Gardens in the Los Angeles suburb of La Cañada Flint Ridge.
Okay. So it sounds like they didn't go even very far.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know much about what's where in LA, but...
Yeah, now I gotta... Oh, hold on. So I went to the article about the Descanso Gardens, and apparently that's also where they filmed Sherwood Forest for the episode Cupid.
Oh, nice. I guess it's just a good, easy forest filming location.
It must be, yeah. What else? Let's see. You got also a prominent filming location for the Land of the Lost television series, All My Children, Grey's Anatomy, The Mentalist, NCIS, the movie Congo, and the Steven Spielberg science fiction film Minority Report.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, there you go.
They filmed Congo in the LA suburb.
I guess at least part of it.
That's nice. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I'm good.
All right. So, yep, we'll be back next week with the season 2 wrap up. So, look forward to that. And Star Trek Picard's about to wrap up the season 2, I guess. So, or I guess the whole series. So, if you haven't listened to our Star Trek Picard reviews, go check those out too. It's called The Inner Four Lights, not Undeclared Picard or whatever. That would have been too smart. But anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the description, where I occasionally put links to interesting things. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
See ya.
And remember, every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies.